All right, this is debate group 5. Resolution be resolved that public universities be free in California to eliminate student debt. In our opening statement, Jonathan has the floor.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Chengane, and I will be delivering the opening statement for the pro side, which means I am in support of the pro resolution that public universities be free in California with the intent to eliminate student debt. So why should your background be the determining factor on if you can attend a university or not? In our current reality, privileged students not only come into school with an edge that comes from parental resources, they also generally have great access to advanced coursework, effective teachers, private tutors, and other opportunities that lead to stronger outcomes. For those non-privileged students, it is so difficult for them to access opportunities because from the jump, they are already so far behind that they can't even compete on the playing field. In the article, Insight by Dr. Pedro Naguro, he states, acknowledging students' differences and giving them what they need to be successful, it also means staying focused on outcomes, both academic and developmental. We'll know we are doing equity work right when kids' backgrounds no longer predict their outcomes. Allowing free public universities will no doubt remove financial barriers. Low and middle class students will now be able to take a deep breath and not have to worry about the burden of a massive student loan they accumulated over 4 to 6 years. There are several psychological effects that can happen to a student in debt from student loans. Being in debt can be a heavy load that can bring out anxiety and unneeded stress, to the point that when working a job, the money earned is essentially going right back towards paying off that debt. It leaves certain individuals in a state of hopelessness and even embarrassment, always being anxious about meeting payment dates and fearing what might happen if the dues remain unpaid leads to unwanted mental strain that makes everything feel worse. Gradually regaining financial control diminishes stress levels, thereby letting an individual move towards a more secure future. So how can a student really be successful if they are constantly under an enormous amount of stress from the second they step on campus? At the end of the day, if a student doesn't have to worry about how they will pay off student loan payments in time, they can be working towards a successful career. In certain situations, these individuals will be paying all this money to get a degree, but after school is done, there isn't a guarantee that they will have a well-paying job to make those payments easier. The vast majority of four-year public university graduates complete their undergraduate degree with relatively a good amount of student debt. According to an article by the Association of Public and Land Grant University, it says about half of students at four-year public universities finish their bachelor's degree without any debt, and 78% graduated with debt on average 30,000. So only 4% of public university graduates left with more than $60,000 in debt. So on average, 6 out of 10 students at a public four-year university will complete their bachelor's degree with some kind of student debt. The nation's total student debt balance, which includes graduate student debt, now stands at $1.75 trillion. This is an issue, in my opinion, that needs to be addressed. There are many countries that let their students finish their degrees and pay for it all for free. Thank you.
Sorry. Opening the floor for cross-examination on the con side. Have any rebuttals? If student loans aren't the only stress on students, no, don't you think like rent, food, groceries is not the only kind of stress? I don't feel like stress is the only option or only stress outlet from students is just student debt. All right, we're going to move on to if there's any other cross-examination. Move on to the opening statement, Veronica.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Veronica, and I will be presenting the opening statement for the con side. Today, we are discussing how significant it is to provide our future leaders with all of the resources that we have on campuses today. This case is about California public universities becoming free of tuition. I will be explaining why we should not have our public universities in California free of tuition. As Caitlin Castellanos states in her article, The Pros and Cons of Having Free College Education for All, she states, if college is free, then how would colleges stay open? How are professors and other faculties working on campuses getting paid? If I was working on a college campus, I would not want to work for free. It could come from the government, but there's only so much that can be used. Private donors are also an option, but again, donations alone would not allow all people to attend for free. When we think about our future as a kid, we think about what we want to become, like a teacher, a doctor, a veterinarian. Eventually, we learn about the types of different schooling we have to go through and how many grades exist in our education system. We eventually find ourselves wondering, is there a 13th grade or a 14th grade? Then we hit high school and we are preparing ourselves to become a great candidate for our dream schools. I remember spending all the time I had doing what I could to be accepted into the colleges I wanted to be in. It was an achievement to finally get into one of my top choices. Now, what made these universities so different from each other? Trying to choose the university that I want to go to, I had the privilege of being able to choose my professors and who I will depend on to teach me the things I need to know. For example, I was able to create my first business as a group project with a group in my entrepreneurship class. Our professor was able to provide us with feedback and tips at every step of the way with his own experience. And because of his journey to becoming a professor, I had trusted him into teaching me the world of entrepreneurship and what it was like to be an entrepreneur. I look closely at all the classes I will have to take and how quickly I must register for my classes, beating the long lines of students who wish to take the same exact courses as me. I was given a website with all the class information, and help was also offered for choosing my classes. I eventually chose a university that provides me with resources that has given me a different approach of learning new skills. When I first wanted to become a microbiologist, I was allowed to learn how to use an electron microscope to investigate cells. I have all these amazing things to investigate within each university, but how is this all possible? All of these choices came with a lot of different types of resources provided thanks to the tuition that students do pay. Public universities should not be free because there's so much to offer, again, using the money from the tuition. Resources are made available to students thanks to the finances brought to the university. For example, science majors need their microscopes to learn about cells, and engineers may need a 3D printer to complete a design for their project. Theater majors will need a theater to perform in that has professional lighting and advanced sound systems to enhance their performances. These resources are very important as these are what we may see as the essentials or the basics to our majors. Depending on the sizes of the universities, it is important to consider who would be accepted and how many can be accepted. What if there is no room for more students? How will professors be able to handle a larger volume of students without becoming overwhelmed? With the tuition paid to the next step, sorry, with the tuition paid, professors are paid for their hard work to teach and guide our future leaders of this generation to the next step. There is a lot to consider in this case. Though it sounds pleasing to eliminate student debt for good, student tuition has granted students endless opportunities and resources to apply towards not only their education, but their futures.
I'm going to open up the floor for any cross-examination. We have 2 minutes if any needs any. Good. All right, we're going to move on to the rebuttal for Jackson.
Hello, my name is Jackson. I'm doing the rebuttal. And today I'd like to discuss two critical concerns that are often raised in the debate about making college free in California. Overcrowding at public institutions is the first, and the implications for taxpayers. These concerns are valid, but I believe we can address them effectively with planning and investment. So I'll begin with the overcrowding. Many people worry that making college free will result in a flood of new students, which will be overwhelming to public universities. But I do want to emphasize that free college programs can be designed specifically to manage enrollment effectively. With proper planning and adequate funding, universities can expand their resources to accommodate increased demand. This means hiring more faculty, creating additional campus facilities, and investing in support systems to help students succeed. When we invest in infrastructure, we not only enhance the educational experience, but also ensure that every student has the opportunity to succeed. Organizations like the Public Policy Institute of California have conducted research supporting this perspective. The report suggests that with appropriate funding, universities can enhance their capacity to welcome more students without compromising educational quality. This highlights the importance of strategic planning when implementing free college initiatives. In addition to expanding physical resources, we should also consider the increased funding that often accompanies proposals for free college. State funding can be allocated towards expanding facilities, and hiring additional faculty members. This investment directly supports our universities in accommodating a larger student body while maintaining high academic standards. Now let's talk about technology. The expansion of online and hybrid learning options can significantly alleviate physical space constraints. By offering more courses online, students can access education from anywhere, which reduces the need for additional classroom space. So for the second thing I will be discussing, it will be the implications on taxpayers. Um, it's understandable that the idea of funding free college raises questions about the financial implications for taxpayers, but it is essential to consider the long-term economic benefits of investing in education. An educated workforce translates to higher earning potential. When individuals have access to higher education, they're more likely to secure stable, well-paying jobs. This in turn will lead to increased tax revenues for the state, and a better educated population benefits the economy, which in the long run will benefit taxpayers. Moreover, individuals with higher education levels are less likely to rely on social services, such as unemployment benefits and welfare programs. This reduction in reliance can lead to significant savings for taxpayers, as fewer public resources will be needed to support individuals without stable incomes. When we do invest in free college, we're not just supporting students, we're making a strategic move for economic growth. A more educated population fosters innovation and productivity, which are essential for a thriving economy. This growth can create jobs and stimulate overall economic activity, benefiting anyone, benefited anyone. So let's consider a few statistics to underscore this point. Studies have shown that college graduates earn significantly more over their lifetime compared to those who only have a high school diploma. This means that in the long run, investing in education leads to a more prosperous society. So in conclusion, while concerns about overcrowding and taxpayer dollars are valid, they can be effectively addressed throughout strategic planning and investment. By expanding facilities, enhancing online learning options, and utilizing community colleges, we can manage enrollment effectively without compromising the quality of education. So let us embrace the idea of free college as an opportunity for economic growth and social equity, one that promises to enrich our society and uplift our economy for years to come. Thank you for your time.
And I'm going to be talking on the rebuttal for the cons. One topic I want to discuss is the financial burden on taxpayers in the at-risk state budgets. The money needs to come from somewhere. California is already struggling with budgets and would have to increase to afford to pay for the tuition for the students. If California does not raise taxes, the state will have to cut the funds from other budgets, such as healthcare and other education systems, such as K through 12 grades. Jackson failed to mention that where this money comes from with the proper funding, universities can enhance their capacity to accommodate more students without suffering the quality. But where are we getting this funding from? Is it if tuition is free? Money will have to be deducted from somewhere and taxes raised to counter the funds. According to the National Bureau of Economic Research, in 1909 through 1910 school year, 355,000 Americans between the ages of 18 and 24-year-olds were enrolled in higher education. In 2012, that number climbed to 31.4 million, which is 41%, and it jumped to 47% in 2024. So we're dealing with a very different scale and scope. Times are different now, and when asked to make colleges for free, there are a lot of budgets at stake. This only works if taxpayers are willing and able to pay for all to go to college. This is easier said than done. This is easier said than done. More individuals are choosing to go to higher education to get a 4-year degree. Another concern of free tuition is that this will only affect the higher class students. In an article posted by the Harvard School of Education, low-income students have already received a lot of need-based financial aid from the federal government. The federal government, along with states and universities, already provide a need-based aid that covers a significant portion, if not all, of tuition for low-income students. For example, we have the Pell Grant, which provides funding for qualifying low-income students, covering tuition at many community colleges and reducing the cost for public universities. State and institutional aid further supplements these grants, often resulting in little to no out-of-pocket tuition expenses for students with disadvantaged backgrounds. The second topic I want to touch on is the overcrowding and reduce of the quality of education if public universities are to become free. We all saw a decrease in what it means to have an AA degree. We used to be able to get a job with an AA degree, which meant you were going somewhere. Now most jobs require a BA degree when applying, and if we are giving out free bachelor's degrees, then that would mean you would need to get a master's degree just to get an entry-level job, depending on the work. If you lower the price of college tuition to $0, you are going to get a lot more students enrolling. Increase in state funding for higher education are pulling from the same pools of resources will then be spread across many more students. This could lead to larger classes, less guidance and mentoring, and generally a lower quality experience. With free public university colleges, it puts more strain on the professors. More students in the class means more work for the professors. A boom in enrollment could create a need for additional faculty hiring, and academic support personnel. Overworked personnel will result in less effective learning environments. Institutions may resort to hiring adjunct or part-time faculty instead of full-time professors to save on costs, which could also affect the consistency and quality of instruction. Some schools may reduce student services such as tutoring or mental health support, or limit extracurricular programs, undermining student success and well-being. Questionable impact on students. The third item I will be touching on is the impact this will have on student motivation and graduation rates. Without having a financial investment in their own education, students are less likely to take it seriously. Students need to have some kind of stake in their own education. If it's free, it won't have much of an impact if they fail a class. They could potentially take the class again, therefore wasting resources. Investing in free college can stimulate economic growth, as Jackson mentioned, but free tuition alone is unlikely to guarantee a student's success. While removing financial barriers helps increase access, academic motivation and completion require a combination of personal commitment, academic preparedness, and institutional support. Without these elements, free tuition programs may encourage enrollment but fail to improve at graduation rates, ultimately limiting their long-term impact on student success. Student debt is not the only factor that can prove hardship on individuals. Inflation has gone up significantly, which in turn made tuition less affordable. I believe there are other avenues that California can take to help lessen the strain on individuals and eliminating not just student debt. Thank you. Now we got Angie for closing.
Thank you all for your attention and thoughtful consideration on this important issue of this resolution before us to make public universities in California free to eliminate students' debt offers a transformation solution to the pressing problems of educational inequality, economic insecurity, and the crushing burden of student loans. First, I want to acknowledge the reality of student debts crisis. Like how Jonathan stated before, in the US, over 45 million people owe a combined 1.7 trillion in dollars in student loans. Here in California, where we pride ourselves on being a state of opportunity and access, the high cost of higher education is preventing too many talented individuals from reaching their full potential. College should be a pathway to success, not a trap of long-time financial struggle for many students today. That's exactly what has become a financial trap that can take decades to escape. The stress and anxiety of carrying student debt don't just affect students while they're in school, it follows them well into their adult lives. Many graduates delay major life milestones like buying a home, starting a family, or even pursuing careers they're passionate about because they're overwhelmed by the burden of their debt. Making public universities free in California would directly address this by eliminating one of the main sources of student debt. It would ensure that students can enforce on learning, growing, and contributing to society instead of worrying about how they'll pay back tens of thousands of dollars for decades to come. Second, education is a public good. Just as we provide free kindergarten through 12th grade education, higher education should be viewed as a continuation of that public investment. A well-educated population benefits everyone. It's tied to higher economic growth, lower unemployment rates, increased civic participation, and more innovative workforce. The return on investment for free public universities far outweighs the initial costs. When more people can access higher education without financial barriers, they can contribute more meaningfully to our economy and society. California is the world's fifth largest economy, and investing in its people by providing free public higher education straightens our entire state's social and economic future. Think about it. Our kindergarten through 12th grade system is built on the idea that education is the fundamental right. If we stop supporting students the moment they graduate from high school, we are missing an opportunity to fully realize that right. The modern economy increasingly demands specialized knowledge and skills, which often requires a college degree. By making public universities free, we would be ensuring that all Californians have the chance to acquire the education that they need to thrive in today's workforce. Also, let's not forget about free public universities would benefit everyone, not just those directly attending college. A more educated workforce leads to higher productivity, more job creation, and ultimately a better standard of living for the Californians. By eliminating student debt, we're freeing up income that graduates can spend on housing, healthcare, and other essentials, boosting local economies and generating greater prosperity throughout the state. To finish this off, free public universities in California would not only eliminate the crushing weight of student debt, but it would also create a fairer, more equitable, and more prosperous society for all. The time to act is now. We have the financial means, the moral imperative, and the societal need to make higher education accessible for everyone. Let's stop treating college as a privilege for the few and start recognizing it as right for all. And let's invest in the future of California by investing in people who will shape that future. Thank you.
And then we'll move on to Emily.
Can you guys hear me? I think the closing speech against public tuition or free tuition for by just saying thank you. Like, it's been interesting to hear. This is such an important discussion. But as we consider like the idea of free tuition for public universities, I wanted to briefly share my personal perspective and explain why I believe that this will not be the best path forward. Let me start by acknowledging the genuine concern and passion on both sides for this debate. We all, at the end of the day, share a common goal, which is to make higher education accessible and affordable for everyone. But however, we must carefully consider the broader implications of making public university tuition free. Growing up, I witnessed my parents tirelessly provide for our family. They emphasized the value of education and the importance of personal responsibility. They saved for my education, teaching me the value of investing in my future, and this experience shaped my belief in the merit of contributing to one's educational journey. One major concern about free tuition is the financial burden it places on taxpayers. Funding this initiative would require a significant increase in government spending, likely leading to higher taxes. This is particularly concerning for middle and lower income families who are already struggling to make ends meet. The cost of education does not disappear, it simply shifts from students to taxpayers, potentially straining the broader community. Additionally, the quality of education might eventually suffer. Public universities rely on tuition fees to maintain their facilities, to hire skilled faculty, and to provide essential resources for students. Without this revenue, institutions may face budget cuts, which could lead to larger class sizes, fewer course offerings, and outdated equipment. The educational experience could decline, ultimately affecting student success and preparedness for the workforce. Moreover, free tuition could create an oversaturation of the job market with degree holders. If everyone has access to a free university education, the number of graduates entering value degrees and make it harder for individuals to stand out in a competitive job market. We might see employers even placing more emphasis on work experience and skills rather than educational qualifications, potentially disadvantaging recent graduates. We must also consider the motivational aspect. When students invest financially in their education, they tend to take their studies more seriously and strive for academic success. Removing this financial responsibility could lead to a more complacent attitude toward education, resulting in lower graduation rates and a less motivated student body. Instead of making tuition free, we should focus on increasing things like financial aid, scholarships, and grants for those who need it most. We've all been in the position before where we're like, man, that $1,000 scholarship, that could have helped me. If I had known about this, especially with the changes in FAFSA, you don't know until, it's too late. Those scholarships and those things make such a difference, and it's not going to the right people, or we don't even know about it in the first place. This targeted approach ensures that low-income students have access to higher education without placing a burden on taxpayers or compromising the quality of education. In conclusion, while the idea of free public university tuition is well-intentioned, it is fraught with potential pitfalls and unintended consequences. By considering alternative solutions and addressing the core issues of affordability and access, we can work toward a more equitable and
Emily, you're mute. Oh, I think you cut out towards your last year sentence. Sorry, that's what I want to make sure.
Oh, did it cut out at the last sentence?
Yeah.
Okay. Should I just say like the last paragraph again, just one more time?
No, I just think the last sentence.
Or was it just the last?
Yeah, it was just the last part of it. I just want to make sure you got that in.
The last one? Okay. So
By considering alternative solutions and addressing the core issues of affordability and access, we can then work towards a more equitable and sustainable approach to higher education. Thank you.
Thanks. And that concludes our debate. Let me hit stop recording.